ladies and gentlemen, I have titled tonight's stream A Message to Unpatriotic Conservatives, which is kind of supposed to be a backhanded jab at a famous article written in the National Review in 2003 titled Unpatriotic Conservatives, in which Pat Buchanan and a number of other conservative thinkers who opposed the Iraq War were labeled unpatriotic conservatives by the conservative establishment. Sound familiar? I thought it was very fitting to really turn that around and label those who are now shilling for the talking points of the U.S. State Department and beating the drums of war when it comes to Ukraine and shilling every single narrative of the exact same institutions in this country that literally hate us to these people, because that's quite frankly what we're dealing with here in many ways as unpatriotic conservatives. And quite frankly, the optics of it literally could not be more obvious. I mean, you take a look at something like this. Last night, we had the State of the Union address, as you know, and we were greeted with this wonderful site. Hold on, let me actually share to this tab instead, because that'll make it easier. But we were greeted with this wonderful site last night at the State of the Union, which is, listen, so we obviously know why American liberals would absolutely be on the side of Ukraine in this war and would want to shill for endless liberalism when it comes to Ukraine, because we know that liberalism ultimately, although back in the 1960s or whatever, they were kind of ostensibly anti-war, ultimately liberalism is a global ideology, and so does kind of every offshoot is leftism or whatever. That is the ultimate goal here, is to spread global liberalism and democracy, quote unquote, worldwide, and we understand this. We obviously know why kind of liberals would be in support of this, but it's nice to see really that your great Republican leadership, your America First Party, here they are literally donning foreign flags, waving the flags of a foreign nation, literally in the middle of the American State of the Union. How much more obvious could it get to you? And it is very hilarious, is it not? Now, these are the people historically, dating back to the Iraq War, who have labeled the Paleocons, who have labeled the National Conservatives, the America Firsters, as the unpatriotic conservatives. Like, how much easier in front of your face can it really get? I mean, honestly, you take a look at this. But must take sip of water for dramatic effect. But honestly, let's talk a little bit about this, because when I go on social media, and I expected, I'm actually kind of disappointed with the movement, because when we were first talking about this Ukraine stuff and saying America first, all of these things, most people got it. Because I kind of test the waters, and I mainly test the waters on my Instagram, because I guess that's where I have the most like normie audience, the most mainstream audience, because I kind of built that back in like 2020, just kind of like riding the Trump wave or whatever. That's kind of how I built the base there. And so I always like to kind of test out kind of that audience and kind of see what they think, because it's not as based or whatever as this audience. And initially, when it came to all this Ukraine stuff, when it was first kicking up, the support was unanimous. No war. This is dumb. What is going on here? Biden just wants war, whatever. But then what has happened over the past week or so as the invasion itself has kicked off or whatever? What you've gotten is a very coordinated and selected kind of media campaign. Right, you've gotten a media campaign to really drive home that kind of all of those narratives, right? Unprovoked invasion, okay, which apparently now is like it's an objective fact according to the media. It's not a matter of subjectivity, right? You have David Muir at the end of the State of the Union yesterday, literally, just going out and saying that it was unprovoked invasion, right? And this is supposed to be, unbiased news, obviously with a liberal lean, but the wording they're supposed to use is unbiased, and so apparently to them that's like objective wording at this point, right? And so you're getting that. Let me take another sip of water here. And So let's actually talk about this, because what you basically seen is so many conservative Americans have essentially been psyopped, like they've been successfully psyopped, and now to the point where you don't shill for endless war in Ukraine. Literally, you'll get half of conservatives literally just go out here and get mad at you. Like I go in my YouTube, Instagram comment section, even comments on social media sites like Gab and stuff like that. And what you get every time I remotely call out some of this stuff, like you're being lied to, you're being psyopped about this whole Ukraine thing. You have endless supply of conservatives literally just shilling for the propaganda of the mainstream media and of the State Department. And it is honestly really sad to see, because who is the primary age demographic that is falling for this amongst the conservative base? It is not so much the Zoomers. I think for the most part, the Zoomers get it. The Zoomers tend to be more kind of isolationist, especially. But you have a lot of Gen Xers and a lot of boomers who all of a sudden turn around and, just yesterday they were kind of agreeing with us and saying, we don't really need war here. But then Fox News gets out here and shows the stories of the ghost of Kiev and all this stuff. And all of a sudden now what you have is like, how dare you remotely sound like you're saying anything nice about that evil communist dictator Putin. How dare you not stand up for Ukrainian democracy? And it is really disappointing to see, because these are the generation of conservatives who have watched themselves get lied to over and over again. Like, do we need to remind ourselves of that? Look, I am 18 years old. So I was born like right around the time the Iraq war started. Okay. So, I've only read kind of the story there. I never got to witness it firsthand, but these are the people who were old enough and like they were adults by this point. These are the people who were old enough to watch and witness themselves be lied to about Iraq, about Afghanistan, about Libya, about all of these foreign conflicts. Like, they literally lived it. They literally saw it. And so you would think in many ways, Gen X and the boomers should be the most skeptical generation of conservatives when it comes to this stuff. You would think, hypothetically, it'd probably be the Zoomers who are kind of gullible and haven't really seen this whole story play out before. They might be the ones to immediately be more rushing to kind of fall for like State Department propaganda and pro-intervention propaganda. But instead, it's the opposite. Instead, you have the same people who watch Bush do what he did, and you watched all those lies happen, and here they are falling for it, shilling for it again. It is honestly quite disgraceful. It's completely disgraceful. And you look at the site here. I mean, how much more in your face can it get? Foreign flags, the flag of a foreign nation in the American Capitol, worn by Republicans at the State of the Union. It is absolutely ridiculous. And you know how Steve Cortez, who is one of the good Trump advisors, he really is, and he got out there after this and said, whose State of the Union was it? Actually, I think he said, I really enjoyed watching the State of Ukraine. Now, where's our State of the Union address? And that was great. But you see, for the most part, right, Republicans are totally in lockstep with the kind of narrative of the liberal regime when it comes to this Ukraine issue. Because it's not just Kevin McCarthy, and obviously Kevin McCarthy is House Minority Leader as of right now. He's probably going to be Speaker of the House when Republicans win back the House in 2022, which really is blackpilling. And you should not be supporting anyone in the primary that wants to vote for Kevin McCarthy as Speaker of the House. But it's not just him. Obviously, the official Republican response by Kim Reynolds, okay, who is completely mediocre, and her response sucked. And that's 2 years in a row, by the way, we've had affirmative action hires do the response to the State of the Union. First, it was Tim Scott because he's black. Totally mediocre, by the way. And then we have Kim Reynolds because she's a woman. Once again, totally mediocre. If you want to, she's not even like the best woman figure in the party. Okay, and that's saying something. But they had that. But her too. Did you see what was on her lapel pin or whatever? It was a Ukrainian flag and an American flag. And it's just like, how much more obvious? They are laughing at you at this point. Okay, both ends of the political class, Democrats, Republicans, they're literally just mocking you when they say this, because when you look at the current state of America, right, you just look at all the things that are going on. We know the story, inflation, the border, whatever. It's actually mockery. Like, they're basically just spitting in your face by saying, hey, we're going to show up to the State of the Union when the whole country is wearing, and we're going to make it so obvious that we're waving a foreign flag in front of your face. And instead, conservatives should be outraged at that. Every single one of us should look at that and literally say WTF. Like that's actually genuinely disgraceful. And they're mocking you. Everything going on in the country right now, and they have the nerve to wave a foreign flag right in front of your face, like literally just capitulate that their allegiance is not in this country. And instead what we get is comments of people saying like, well, I don't see what the big deal is. I don't see. Let's actually go to my Instagram comment section, for instance, and we will kind of show you. We'll kind of show you what people are saying here, because it is quite the sight. It is truly quite the sight. So let's see here. King Cairo says, couldn't sleep, came to say hi. We love to see it. Appreciate you showing up. So anyways, and it's very funny because we posted something about this on APU. It was just simply that, has any Russian called you a domestic terrorist? And we basically were kind of calling out this sort of logic, and we lost followers. Like, it's very interesting, even like APU, right? And people who follow APU are not so much like normies or whatever necessarily, not all of them. And we even got them lost now. But anyways, let's take a look at some of the stuff here. All right. So, like, yeah, you got some of these, like, I'm Ukrainian, my family's in hell right now, but this is such theatrics. I don't believe any of this for a second. And it is true. Like, think about the optics of this. And now I'm obviously not shilling for like intervention or whatever, right? I'm not. But obviously I'm not doing that. But the optics of saying, because we're not doing anything, we're basically just letting it happen. But then you're just gonna wear a Ukrainian flag, like you know how stupid that looks. You're not like, oh, we're standing with Ukraine. What you're standing there with a flag? Like you could say it's virtue signaling in a way, or whatever it is. But let's see. I want to show you some of the comments down lower that we got here. You have comments like this. I don't necessarily see a problem with this, considering what's happening in Ukraine. Well, there's a lot happening in America too, but it's just like, you don't see a problem. Really, you don't see a problem with waving a foreign flag at the American State of the Union address. Did you see Kevin McCarthy's outfit? He's not even wearing an American flag on that outfit. It is the Ukrainian flag. And quite frankly, it is very, very obvious that that is where the focus of the American regime is, right? Like, I don't want to do the whole cliche, look at what's going on in America thing, but it is absolutely true. America is full of domestic problems, inflation, border crisis, all these other things that you see happening around the country. And the entire focus of both the media and of the political class politically literally is Ukraine. It is a conflict in Eastern Europe that is like centuries old and has no part of us. And it's like, you have 62 likes on this. I don't necessarily see a problem considering what's happening in Ukraine. What about what's happening in America? And it is a mockery. Like, it is literally a mockery in your face that they would have the nerve. Your American political class has the nerve to show up to your State of the Union, which is supposed to be given to you, right? Wearing that, like, that's absolutely ridiculous. Absolute insertion to our. Let me see here. Really trying to find things to. Here's another one. Really trying to find things to get mad at, huh? Conservative media is really starting to piss me off more and more. Oh yeah. We're really just trying to find things to be mad at when a foreign flag shows up in our capital at our State of the Union address. It is absolutely ridiculous. I don't see a problem here. They have Ukrainian flags for solidarity. Oh yeah? So solidarity for what exactly? What exactly is a solidarity for? Okay, and we'll talk about that in a second. Here we have another. Oh, here we love this comment. Vince showing his pro-Putin sentiment. It is very funny because I really the people act like this is such like an own on me. Like it's like I don't care. You can call it pro-Putin all you want. I don't care, but. It's the logic here. Me out here saying, right, foreign flags don't belong at the State of the Union, and it's like pro-Putin sentiment. It is pro-Putin to say that we should be neutral in this. It is pro-Putin to say that American flags, foreign flags don't belong at the American State of the Union. You take a look at this. You take a look at this comment, dude. It is quite the gem. Support, and it's like, this person says, who's very based, I like his comment. He says, is it that hard to believe that maybe, just maybe, someone can simply support neither side? And it's like, check this out. I'm pretty sure this guy's a liberal, by the way. I'm not even sure what he is, but it's actually very possible. You look at his profile picture, he might actually be a liberal, which is, very interesting to see liberals talk like this. We'll talk about that in a second. That's so true as well. But anyways, Ethan says, supporting neither in this invasion is tacit support of Putin's imperialist goals. Yeah, where have we heard? These people are talking just like the Iraq war and just like all the other useless foreign interventions that we've seen before. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. It's called humanity. I don't see you complaining that other countries flew our flag after 9/11. Even the Queen broke the rules. It's like, yeah. We're just showing our humanity, bro. No, you're not. What you're showing is literally our utter lack of loyalty to our own country. Okay. So, anyways, let us get into it. Okay, let us get into it. What we're going to talk about here tonight. Okay. Which is obviously, I spilled water on my computer. That was very smart of me. Okay, but which is obviously the message to the America Last Neocons. Okay, that's really what we want to get into, and we've been talking about it. We've been kind of framing the issue, but let's just get right into it. And I will start by saying that, and I said this in a video yesterday too, but you are not a patriot. You're not a conservative. You're not a smart person. I think that's the language I use, but it's so true. If you are shilling for the U.S. State Department, if you are shilling for the mainstream media and all of the institutions that have lied to you about like every other single thing out there, okay, because you see this happening, and it's just frankly so sad how easily all of these people get baited into this stuff. And so let me actually kind of play devil's advocate here. Like, you just shouldn't be listening to the narratives of the American regime anyway. But let me remind you, conservatives, especially those who are so obsessed with all the Trump drama, even consider this. It's very ironic, right? You have all the ones who got out here and watch Hannity every night during the Trump presidency, and they're all about like, oh, TikTok deep state, right? Oh, we're going to come after the Biden corruption. Well, let's actually talk about that, because it is very real. There's very real truth to it. Okay, well, let us remind ourselves that Ukraine, okay, yes, and it is Ukraine. Ukraine is the country where, is that not true, that Hunter Biden went in and did a bunch of corrupt deals? And remember that? Remember the whole story with the gas company or whatever, right? And let me also say that it is much bigger than that, right? Like, of all countries, why is it that Hunter Biden went into Ukraine to do that? Well, that's because that this is just a country, generally speaking, that you could say our political class, which is incredibly corrupt, obviously. Our political class obviously has kind of a very strong relationship there. They have a very kind of deep-seated neck there, or whatever you could say. Okay, but anyways, they went in there. Okay, let's just remember the whole Hunter Biden thing, and let's remember that clearly, it's much bigger than that. It's much bigger. It's Ukraine, of all the countries on earth. Hunter Biden did not choose to go into Ukraine for no reason. Clearly, there's a history of U.S. Ukrainian corruption going on there. So that's number one. Now, let us also consider the fact that Vladimir Putin is something of a nationalist himself. Okay, so let's just listen. Everyone say, "Oh, you're pro Putin, bro." No, how about you just listen to this, and let's just talk about who Vladimir Putin is and what he represents kind of on the world stage. Honestly, love Putin or hate Putin, which we could talk about. Well, I don't know. Maybe we'll make the actual Putin video at some point. But love Putin or hate Putin, let's just first and foremost establish that Putin undeniably is a right-wing kind of nationalistic leader. Okay, and he is, and that's undeniable. Okay, and you can think he's too authoritarian. You can think you can think, well, he's not authoritarian enough. Whatever you think about him, it is absolutely true that what Vladimir Putin represents in many ways is a rebellion against kind of the doctrine of like global liberalism, if you want to call it that. Because Vladimir Putin, as we well know, is someone who's really brought back the Orthodox Church in Russia, and he's kind of tried to make that church, the Russian church and Christianity, the moral foundation of his state, first and foremost. He secondly tried to make the family the kind of foundation of his state, right? Because when Vladimir Putin took over Russia, it was, he was taking over a very sad situation of, decades of communism, decades of the Soviet Union, obviously. So dead religion, kind of dead family structure. And then also on top of that, what is he taking over for, right? He's taking over for, Boris Yeltsin's leadership, which was obviously a mess. The whole country is run by warlords, right? And so what happened? So Vladimir Putin has done that. Vladimir Putin has sought to address Russia's struggling population problem, right? Because Russia's been having a huge demographic problem, birth rate struggling, etc. And the obvious solution, what the kind of globalists wanted Vladimir Putin to do, was obviously do what America has done to a lesser population problem, which is simply to import foreign labor, globalize the economy, and that's going to kind of bring back the population problem. And Vladimir Putin said no, right? Vladimir Putin did not open his borders to massive amounts of immigration and refugee resettlement. He did not open his economy to a massive amount of transnational corporations, etc. And so let us just establish, love Putin or hate Putin, I don't care what you think about him at the moment, let us just establish that there's an obvious reason why there's a vested interest for these people not to like Vladimir Putin. Like, can we establish that? Is it really so hard to recognize that there's a reason why the American political class, A, likes Ukraine, remember the Hunter Biden thing, and B, doesn't like Putin, doesn't like Russia a whole lot? Okay, well, we just take those two narratives and put them together and really ask yourself this question. Is it maybe possible that you're being completely lied to when it comes to this stuff? Is it maybe possible that the whole narrative of unprovoked invasion against, innocent Ukrainian democracy or whatever, is it possible that maybe that entire narrative is not completely true? And the truth is that it's not true. I don't believe that it's true at all. But I want to first and foremost establish that, because I think that's kind of the place where people are first and foremost trying to confront me the most on it. It's like, but Putin is evil, but what don't you know? He's bombing children or whatever. It's like, I don't know how true that is. Okay, I know that casualties happen in war. I also know that like there's an obvious kind of propaganda agenda here. And so to me, honestly, the way I see what's going on in Ukraine right now, I don't necessarily have a side in it, to be completely honest. I think that it's a complicated conflict. I think there's a lot of nuance to it, right? I don't know necessarily if it's what Vladimir Putin should be doing. At the same time, I definitely cannot deny the fact that in many ways, kind of NATO aggression and the NATO push into the region, you could say, has exacerbated it in many ways. There's just a lot going on to this conflict. And it is for that reason why I don't think we should be so jitterish to fly the Ukrainian flag all over the State of the Union, because it is a very complicated conflict. And I do know that the motives of the political class cannot be good, because it is not good on anything else, and it's absolutely ridiculous to me to imagine the fact that, these same people who watched the lies happen in Iraq, the lies happen everywhere else, just totally fall for this. It's just ridiculous. So anyways, let's take a look at live chat a little bit. Putin also likes dogs. It is. He also wrote a bear. It's so over for the globalists. Is it not so over for the globalists? It's so true. Carter Shaw says, and this is so true. It's so true. If the globalist empire agrees with you, you are being psyopped. It's literally the case. Like, I don't know if you guys saw this. Let me look this up, okay? But hold on. Drop the microphone here. But big tech. Let me ask this question to the America lasters, and that's what I'm going to call them. Let's fly the Ukrainian flag at the State of the Union people. Okay. Are you aware that big tech has been censoring Russian media? Okay. Let me see. YouTube. Okay. So for instance, okay, here, let me share the screen here. All right. So let me ask you conservatives, if this looks familiar. Okay. So let us establish that big tech does not have good motives. Like, they literally never do. Okay. Like big tech allows child porn and like all these gateways to kids watching porn and whatnot on their websites. So it's not exactly like big tech does anything with good intentions. So establishing that, why exactly is it that, for instance, we have YouTube blocking Russian state-controlled channels in Europe, and we have Google cutting off ad revenue to Russian state media? Does this sound very familiar? Right? When we're talking about RT, by the way, this is what's happening here. Okay. Does this sound very familiar to you? And the answer is it absolutely should, because it is. Why is it? Let me ask the question, like, just to wake you up, maybe to make you woke, make you a free thinker on this. Why is it that, if we're, so again, establishing that big tech is never on our side, establishing that, why exactly is it that you see YouTube and Google going out here, and Twitter, by the way, too, going out here and censoring Russian media and using the same exact censorship tactics that they use against American conservatives? Like, how much greater can the writing be on the wall? The most pro-Ukrainian intervention people in America are the liberals, for the most part. Okay, you have big tech and all these media institutions going out here and saying this. You have a bunch of liberals getting out here and saying conservatives support Putin. There was a plane outside of CPAC or something that wove a flag that said like Trump and Tucker support Putin or work for Putin or whatever it is. It's like you see all the narratives being spread here. It's like, okay, I think now conservatives, you have one of two options. Your first option is to do what they want you to do, which is that basically, okay, if they're getting out here and saying that you support Putin, what do they want you to do? They want you to go out here and try to prove that you don't support Putin. So they want you to go, they like every time you get out here and say, no, we're the ones who are really tough on Russia, et cetera, right? You actually play right into their hands, because that's what they want. They want you to get on board with all of the narratives that they're spreading. They want you to get on board with globalism, with foreign intervention. And so you're actually playing into their hands when you get out here and try to prove, actually, we're more anti-Russia than you libs. You're doing exactly what they want. Okay. But let us just ask the question, why is it that they're trying to kind of psyop conservatives into believing this? It's so true. So anyways, let's see. Putin doesn't have complete control despite his actions. It is true. He's actually, as much as he's often referred to as a dictator, he's actually not nearly as powerful as he's often labeled in Russia itself, which is very true. So, the fact that they treat conservatives the same as their supposed enemy country is very concerning. Well, this is exactly the point that I think we are really trying to drive home here, right? Is it not? Which is that first and foremost, we talk about how they're lying to you, but it should also be the fact that, your enemy obviously is like the true enemy to your freedom obviously is not in Moscow. It is not in Beijing even, it is obviously at home. And we know that to be the case, but we are like, it's actually literally true. Because as much as boomers like to call Xi is a communist, like, yeah, he's part of the Chinese Communist Party. He doesn't really run his country so much like a communist, right? Or Putin is a communist because he's part of the KGB, even though the way he runs his country now is kind of he runs it more like a czar, right? He's more like the neo czar, which is a definitionally right-wing kind of a form of government than being a communist or whatever. But as I talked about in another video, right, let us also remind ourselves that communists run this country. Okay, like you want to talk about who the true threat, the true enemy to American freedom is. Communists run America, okay? And I know that, and I'm not trying to sound like your uncle on Facebook when I say it, because I know the boomers get out here and they say, communist Marxist takeover. It's actually true, though, right? You look at the influence of the Frankfurt School, you look at the way that the four big cultural Marxists, okay, I think Buchanan labeled them the four who made a revolution, and that's kind of one way to put it. But, the way their cultural Marxism now controls every institution in America, like that's actually the truth. Like when you say communists run America, it is true. It is true. But obviously, instead of saying this is the greatest threat to American freedom, and you see, that's the thing. Instead of saying the greatest threat to American freedom is the communists at home, instead, what are we doing? We're literally being psyopped by the communists. Conservatives are allowing themselves again. Didn't we say Trump came along? Didn't we say, we're done falling for the lies now? We're awake. We're woke. We're going to fight for our country back or whatever. Despite all of that, what happens time and time again? What happens time and time again? We get psyops. We get psyopped literally by the cultural Marxists, and the people that we have not identified as cultural Marxists, doesn't matter. We still continue to get psyopped right back into it. And I guess this will segue into the other thing I want to talk about in tonight's stream, which is the fact that I guess you could say in many ways, this is the big problem with the conservative movement as a whole, right? It is like, look at how powerful Fox News is. In many ways, it's like Fox News and stuff. It is the kind of mainstream conservative apparatuses that have used this type of propaganda. They're towing the same party line as the left is, as the liberal media is, but they basically managed to kind of psyop conservatives into this problem. And I talked about this. I didn't publish this yet. Actually, I was going to publish this on the APU website as an article tomorrow. But I talk about this a little bit, and it kind of has to do, you look at especially the runoff, not the primary election last night in Texas, it is indicative of the same exact problem we have in the movement. As you know, unfortunately, very sadly speaking, Greg Abbott easily won his primary last night. Okay, so Greg Abbott is going to be the Republican nominee for governor of Texas. Don Huffines ran a very good campaign. He did his best. He came in second place, but it really, frankly, wasn't even close. In many ways, everyone else got steamrolled by Greg Abbott, right? And like, as we all know, we have been so vocally anti-Greg Abbott because we know Greg Abbott is a rhino. We know he's a neocon. He shut down the state of Texas for like 9 whole months. Remember when that happened? But then he lifted the restrictions like way later than everyone else was and whatever. And all of a sudden it's like, Texas is back open. Texas is free now. But what you've seen happen over the past year, the kind of restoration of Greg Abbott's legacy, right? What you've literally seen happen is like Fox News, two entities I identify. Fox News and the RNC literally brought Greg Abbott's dead legacy back to life. He was seen by a lot of people as a neocon. He was seen as weak. He was seen as performative. And what happened? Fox News look, let me show you something real quick. Watch this, okay? There's almost no other political figure. I don't even think Ron DeSantis has this many Fox News hits. Let me see. Fox News, Greg Abbott. And I butchered the spelling here, but you take a look at this. So you can obviously see how much Fox has propped up Greg Abbott. It is actually ridiculous. Look at all this, right? Look at how many times they've had this guy on in the past year or so, right? And so, like, you see what's happening here. The RNC's been putting a bunch of money into him. All this kind of pro-Abbott propaganda has been spreading. And so, to me, it's not hard to see why Greg Abbott basically was able to rebuild his political legacy and kind of win back support and ultimately win his primary. But the thing is, Again, who are the two institutions that saved him? Because a lot of like the grassroots MAGA entities were behind people like Don Huffines and Alan West in Texas, who basically you could say saved Greg Abbott politically. It was Fox News and the RNC. Obviously, those are institutions that are very powerful. Most conservatives listen to them. But remember post 2020 when everyone said they were going to be boycotting the RNC and they were going to be boycotting Fox News? Like, remember when that happened? Okay, and this has to do with the Russia thing too. You remember when that happened, right? And that's the reality of the situation. If all the people post 2020 who were so mad at everything they were seeing, if all the people who said boycott Fox, which I remember that was a whole movement, if everyone who said boycott Fox and destroy the GOP, if every single boomer and older Republican or whatever who said that out loud in their mouth and in their heart followed through on that, Greg Abbott would not be the next governor of Texas right now, right? If we actually boycotted Fox News, if we actually divested all of our attention away from Fox News and kind of the conservative focus and the conservative mainstream was moved into something much better or much more grassroots or whatever, this would not happen. Because that's part of it. Yes, Fox News did this or whatever, but it says a lot that Fox still has the power to kind of like prop stuff up like this. They shouldn't be able to do it. You know, you look at the fact that the same thing has to do with Russia and Ukraine, right? It is Fox. You know, grassroots conservative media has been saying the same thing I'm saying. Like people say my opinion's fringe or whatever. I don't think it is, because Candace Owens had like basically the same take as me. Obviously, Tucker's on Fox, but obviously Tucker had the same take as me. I interviewed Mike Crispy today, who's now running for Congress, but he used to be a host on Right Side Broadcasting Network. He had the same take on this issue as me. You know, a lot of kind of smaller figures in conservative media are maybe not in the way I'm saying it, but really ultimately saying the same thing as me. It is only Sean Hannity and really the people on Fox out here in the conservative establishment who are shilling for Greg Abbott, number one, and shilling for the kind of the war in Russia narrative thing, number two. Yet you look at how many conservatives are still buying this nonsense, and I'm just looking at this like, what happened to the Fox News boycott? What happened to us saying we're done with the traitors? What happened? They immediately went right back 2 seconds later. Okay, and that's all to say that this is the problem with, you know, the way our movement is right now, is that boycotts of conservative institutions don't work. They don't. Like just saying, you know what? I'm done. You know, this is like what people do. Like, oh, I'm done with Fox News. I'm done with CPAC. I'm done with the RNC. You know, people go out here and say this, and then, you know, immediately 2 months later or whatever, what always happens? I mean, what happened after the Fox after the 2020 election? A few months later, the money started to come back. The viewers started to come back. For the GOP, the voters started to come back, right? I think they knew. That's part of why you saw Fox wasn't really so worried about the kind of 2020 boycott or whatever, because they weren't worried. They knew it was all going to come back in. And so this is all to say, and you know, and you look at what's going on with Ukraine and Russia and the way Fox is kind of towing the party line of the neoliberal political class, same thing going on there. This is the problem with the conservative establishment, obviously. And this is to say that it is not enough to boycott the establishment conservative institutions. Like, it's literally just not. Because like I said, after a while, the numbers come rolling back. Every single time, without exception, they always do. And so what we have to do is not necessarily just boycott all this stuff or whatever. What we as conservatives literally have to be doing, and I guess you could say these Zoomer conservatives, right? This generation of conservatives, the long marchers who will, you know, save the world or whatever it is, you know what I mean? We have to be willing to ultimately take over, replace, and basically destroy these institutions as they currently exist. You know what I mean? And that's a lot harder than boycotting Fox or whatever, because what you have to do actively as kind of our generation, as the marchers or whatever, is actually get involved. Start our own institutions, infiltrate those that already exist, but grand scheme of things, like, we need to be able to take over. You know, this whole free market line of just saying, you know, we'll just boycott and it'll slowly fizzle out. It doesn't work like that. Like, we have to actually be willing to we have to have a way, some type of avenue, some type of way to actually take over the conservative establishment. Because if not, you're stuck with Greg Abbott. If not, you're stuck with, you know, Kevin McCarthy wearing a Ukraine flag at the State of the Union. And you're stuck with like half of the conservative base, especially the Gen Xers and whatnot, just shilling for more conflict on the world stage. And it's very sad, but it's very true. You know, it's very true. So, you know, let's take a look at chat a little bit. So I only watch Tucker on Fox. I think this is all of us, but a lot of people still do watch Fox. Even people who say, "Well, I understand why people watch Fox, I guess, because it's the only thing really on TV. Like there's OAN, there's Newsmax. We love those places, generally speaking, but it's just like they don't really have like the caliber to compete. A lot of people don't have them, right? It makes sense, but it's true. It's true. It's very true. So Vince plus Florida hat equals Vince with Florida hat. It is so true. Start American populist news. Honestly, like I actually was thinking about this the other day. Like we don't have the resources to start it now, but it would actually be sick. That'd actually be sick. We'd have I guess you could see our YouTube channel in some ways like that now. It's the shell of that, but wouldn't it be so cool? Everyone has like their own show. We could be like our own Daily Wire or Blaze. It would be American Populist News or American Populist Broadcasting. Like literally, it needs to happen. Like literally, it actually needs to happen. And this is the thing too, right? I moved to Newsmax after the election, but I unsubbed after they started warmongering. See, that's part of the problem, right? That's part of the problem too. Even stuff like Newsmax, I like OAN. I like OAN a lot, but even stuff like Newsmax, like you don't always get good coverage out of that either, right? Like, yeah, they took it on because they're like, see, we're the honest ones of all this stuff, but you still get much of the same. It's very sad. It's very sad, and it's very true though. It's very true. So Carter Shaw needs a news show on APN. APN. I don't know if it'll be APN. I feel like APTV would be cool. American Populist TV. We should actually do that. Like we should literally actually do that. But anyways, let's look at chat a little bit. Maybe we'll talk some more about this stuff. But let's see. These boomers will make Texas blue in 10 years. It's very true. Greg Abbott could ruin Texas before 2026. Yeah, this is part of what I was talking about too. Like, you look at what Greg Abbott is doing. Like yeah, some of it, I guess you can't control technically or whatever. If you're aggressive enough, you can control all of it. But realistically speaking, what are going to be the kind of few handful of factors that turn Texas blue? Okay, first and foremost, obviously, is the immigration problem. Greg Abbott is not doing much. Greg Abbott's building the border wall, bro. Now, no, he's really not. And he only started kind of performatively talking like he was doing that because Don Huffines was coming out here and owning him, saying, why aren't you doing that? Does anyone really believe that Abbott's seriously going to secure the border? Of course he's not. Of course he's not. Don Huffines and Alan West wasn't going to either. Don Huffines is the only person who was going to do it. And, sadly, he's not going to be governor of Texas, at least in this term. But we still love Don. All right. In fact, we're probably going to invite Don to come to speak at APS2. It's going to be epic. It's going to be epic. All right. All of my Texans, you better come out. I'll probably be in Florida. We'll see if he's available. But it's like literally we're going to invite him. Okay. Because we love Don Huffines. But Abbott is not closing the border. Abbott's not doing anything there, right? And so obviously, like we know long term, like it's said time and time again, but we know what that's going to do to the political demographics of the state. Obviously, we know the point there. We know what's happening there. So obviously, the border is number one. Number two, I would say probably another big reason why Texas is turning blue is the growth of industry, and which is not inherently bad, but it's specifically the growth of the tech companies, right? You see all these tech companies moving to Texas, which to Abbott is so good. Abbott has been a big champion of the tech companies and moving to Texas and all that. Silicon Valley, right? Silicon Valley moving to the state of Texas. But like we know what the deal is with big tech. We know that Silicon Valley is a very left-wing place, and we know the culture there. Well, what's happening now is they're getting up and bringing that culture over to Texas. And by the way, they're not bringing that culture like rural Texas, right? They're not bringing that culture like Bible Belt Texas. The places that big tech are growing are like Austin, right? Austin, one of the most liberal cities in America is Austin, Texas. Is Austin and Dallas. That's where most of the tech companies are moving to. And we see what they're doing there. We know that the population growth of places like Austin and Dallas is part of the reason why Texas is turning so blue, part of it, right? And what is Abbott doing? Instead of trying to gatekeep tech companies out of our states, which we need to be doing. If we're going to invite industry into our state, it's very important that we not be inviting industry that hates us. Like, I think that's pretty common sense. I guess clearly it's not, but still. And so you have that. And, again, Abbott is helping that happen. He's helping that happen. He's helping Austin grow. He's helping Dallas grow. And we know what that's doing to the political demographics. Abbott doesn't care because it brings jobs. It brings money, right? Of course, we put as usual, the Republican establishment puts money and profit or whatever, and corrupt deals over the actual health and well-being of their states and long-term political future of that state. So that's number two. Again, Abbott is allowing that to happen. And then number three, I guess you could say probably the other thing that might turn Texas blue over the long run is obviously like the young generations, right? This is the other problem you're seeing. Even like native-born Texans is just, as in general, even like native-born Texans, non-immigrants, non-migrants from other states are moving left, okay? And one of the big reasons, one of the big things that will doom it long-term, obviously, is the education system, right? We know that the story that's going on there. So I'd say you want to have three factors that are going to turn Texas blue, demographically speaking. Number one, it's obviously the border problem. It's immigration in general. Number two, it is big tech, and it's the tech companies moving there and, expanding the population and bringing a bunch of left-wing culture there. And number three, it is the younger generations. Well, what is Abbott also not doing? To a large extent, he's not taking firm action against the CRT problem, the LGBT problem. You could say no governor in the country is, but that's the problem. Donald Huffines wanted to do it. He would have done it if he was given the chance. He would have actually banned anti-white racism and LGBT ideology in the schools and all the left-wing political ideology that is, breeding the next generation of young radicals in the state of Texas and nationwide. And what happens, because Fox News said Greg Abbott is being a good governor and he lifted the COVID mandates, even though he lifted it like way too late. Because of that, now it's just like, let's reelect the guy. I mean, it's ridiculous. So anyways, Cat with a Perm says thoughts on Pino K. I have not researched him enough. So I will return. Sorry, why does I keep doing that? I will return one day with a coherent take on him. I haven't researched him enough, though. I have to say, but I will say, I think there's a lot interesting there. That's what I'll say. All right. But I have to look more into him before I have like a solid opinion on him. So anyways. So Bryce Pitt says Texas will never be a Democrat state. Well, here's hoping that Don Huffines comes back in 4 years and he wins and he goes full. Uh-oh. I dropped my webcam. Not cool. We had I was getting too excited and we had the 3-2 incident. I dropped my webcam on the ground. Not cool. Not cool at all. All right. We're back. We're so back. Look at that. They tried to shut us down. They couldn't do it. All right. I'm sorry about that, guys. That was very unwise of me. That was very not gamery of me. It's true. It's very true. 3-2. Yeah, Zelensky, Ukraine literally did this. It's very true. Like, it's actually the case. Look, now everyone's saying 3-2 in chat. Be quiet, okay? All right. Pinochet was based, except for being an economic neoliberal to the extreme. This seems to be my take at the moment on him as well. I have to read it more on him, but I think that's I basically agree with that. No, it's true. The Ukrainians did this. Why would Ukraine do this? Why wouldn't Ukraine do this? Okay. Giga Chat for $2. Thank you very much. He says thoughts on libertarianism or libertarians. I don't know. I don't know if I can answer this over a $2 super chat as a whole. In fact, I was thinking of making a video on this at some point. I'm actually buying a teleprompter now. So the reason I'm doing that is because there are some videos that I feel like I just freehand all my videos. There's some videos that I feel like are too complex to like just say without any organization, like get up there and make the video or whatever. Sometimes it can get too hard. So I was thinking of doing a video like on this entirely, but in short, I don't think libertarians are conservatives. Obviously, I think Russell Kirk had. I don't agree with every bit of Russell Kirk's piece on libertarianism. I don't. But he is a legend. He's kind of a paleocon legend. I respect him. I think he has a very good point, a very good piece on this. But I don't know. In short, I guess to put it most simply, I just think that libertarianism is unrealistic. It's basically liberalism at its core. It's defiance of human nature. I think that for me, the first and foremost thing in society ought to be the maintaining of a moral society more so than a free society, because obviously a free society without morals will destroy itself. I don't know. Is that a concise answer enough for you? I mean, we're gonna talk more about this at some point, but it's very true. Pat Buchanan was right about everything. It is so true. It is so true. Coming from George H.W. Bush, that is great. That is very funny. But anyways. Libertarianism is based on liberalism, after all. Liberalism, the political arm of Satan. It is actually true. Like, it is literally the case. And as a matter of fact, I don't know if I should give this take right now, because I'm going to give it in the video tomorrow. We're going to be doing a very based video tomorrow. But you know what? There's 70 people watching. See, I feel like if I give the take now, a lot of people won't watch the video because it's you know what? Okay. Promise me if you're watching right now that if I give this take right now, you'll still watch the video tomorrow. Will you? I hope you will. Okay. Let me just say, I think it is very fitting, because I'm making a video tomorrow on the Gadsden flag. I think it is very fitting that the symbol of libertarianism is what? It is the snake. It is the serpent. Okay, the serpent, obviously, that we know biblically represents Satan, right? But what is that ancient serpent? Like, what did that ancient serpent do? Okay. Did the serpent go up to Eve and just start attacking her, saying, "I hate you," whatever, like just making it very clear that he was the enemy of humanity? No. That ancient serpent is a deceiver, right? And that is why I think it is very fitting. It is very, very fitting that the symbol of libertarianism is the serpent. Because what do libertarians do to like conservative Christians? They're not like the left. They don't go out there and say, "I hate you, I want to destroy you, I'm your enemy," whatever. No, instead, what do? They deceive. Okay, they deceive. They are deceitful, right? They've basically, I would say in many ways, deceived many conservative Christians, like millions of them, into basically supporting a political ideology that in many ways will lead to our own destruction, So I just have to say, it is very, I why I came up with that video was because I was in Orlando this weekend, and I remember seeing so many of these like Gadsden flags, and I was just, and like I'm used to seeing them, but then I thought to myself for a second, I was like, you know what? And I was just thinking, I was like, you know what? Because I've always thought that the symbol was cringe, just because it is weaponizing the serpent and saying that's us. You know what I mean? Like, I've never been a fan of that. But then I put two and two together. I was like, actually, it's very fitting that the libertarian symbol is that ancient serpent, because what does libertarianism do? It is not like it is not a directly confrontational ideology. It doesn't get up to conservatives and say, "We hate you." Instead, it says, no, come over to our side, right? No, like be like us or whatever. It is deceitful. It is so fitting. It is literally perfect that the serpent is the symbol of libertarianism. It is actually so true. It is actually so true. Libertarians and neocons would have all been Democrats before World War II. Neocons, yes. Actually, libertarians, I don't know. I don't know where libertarians would be, because I don't think libertarians would really fit into any of those old political parties. Like, as much as they like to say that, but we're the true Americans, American freedom before the religious right took over everything. Truth is, I don't know if libertarians really would have fit in anywhere in old America. I don't know if old America would have been so keen to them smoking weed and being promiscuous all the time. But neocons, absolutely, yes. Like, neoconservatism is something of a new ideology, but you could definitely say pre-World War II, that kind of FDR-esque Democratic Party definitely kind of was in line with what I guess you could say in many ways the neocons are now. It's kind of true. Andrew M. says, how about offering Canadian truckers who lost their jobs H-1B visas and incentivize them to come to the U.S.? You will get a couple new red voters. Well, that's the thing, is that, that would never happen, would it? That would never happen, because the American immigration system is literally designed to do the opposite of this. And so that's why you would never see it happen. And I'm not a fan really at all of like just using immigration for political means in general, because I think there's more than like the political aspect of it. But it's a very good question. Why would something like this not happen? And the answer is obviously the fact that, it's not designed to be like that, right? The H-1B visa is designed to import people who will be loyal to the regime or whatever, and who will, hurt American workers and hurt American culture. And so that's the very point of it. That's the very point of it. And that's why you will never see that actually go down. So Satan convinced Eve to commit the first woman moment. It's true. It's literally the case. It's literally the case. But is that not, let me see. Thoughts on Gerald Ford being born on 7/14. Was he actually born on 7/14? I thought he was born on 2. No, you're right. I think he was born. Let me see. When was Gerald Ford born? We got to take a look at this. When was Gerald Ford born? He was actually born on 7/14. I think the 7/14 Commission came along and said that, you look at this. When was Gerald Ford born? 7/14. Who did Gerald Ford replace? Richard Nixon, one of the most misunderstood and slandered people in history, in American history, right? Took our guy down. They sabotaged him. Because he was on the verge of greatness in many ways. If you understand this about Nixon, they always like to hone in on, well, he opened up China, he got rid of the gold standard. You guys don't get it. Richard Nixon was one of the people who was trying to, at the time, reverse kind of the leftist takeover of the country, right? Part of the reason why the media hated him so bad was because he ousted communists, right? He exposed, people for having communist ties back when he's Eisenhower's vice president or whatever. So that's number one, and he, in many ways, he understood what was going on in the institutions, like way back in the time in the 1970s. And he said it openly, and they took him down. Why? Because in many ways, he was really on the verge of, kind of resetting what was going on in the country, kind of putting a halt to it. And, in many ways too, if Richard Nixon was able, Richard Nixon won both of his elections by landslides, right? Obviously, 1968, big victory. 1972, biggest victory, I think, in American history till that point, right? Richard Nixon was an incredibly popular president, obviously, as you can tell, before Watergate or whatever. And so it's safe to, and by the way, let us point out, Richard Nixon, I don't think is perfect politically, but Richard Nixon, in many ways, was much more aligned with what, like, we are as, like, kind of these populist conservatives, as, like, national conservatives or whatever. He was much more aligned with, like, us, I would say, ideologically, than more so, like, the Barry Goldwater faction of the party, right? The fusionists. The fusionists are the people, the conservatarians, right, are the people we don't like, obviously. Well, Richard Nixon in many ways was a rebellion against them. He kind of saved face to them, but Nixon was not one of them, right? Nixon was probably something more of like a national conservative or like kind of like a populist in governance or whatever than was, Goldwater, obviously. And so, but what happened when Nixon was taken down? Nixon was basically discredited. What happened was the Nixonite kind of wing of the party was sabotaged. Okay, I'm going on a rant, but I want to kind of explain the Nixon take here. And so what happened was the Barry Goldwater faction of the Republican Party was allowed to take back control, right? And let us remember at the time, fusionism was highly discredited because what happened to Barry Goldwater in 1964? The Lolbert candidate, libertarian conservatism that now defines modern conservatism. Goldwaterism defines modern conservatism. Well, back in 1964, Goldwater, as we know, got destroyed. He got absolutely demolished. Fusionism at the time was totally discredited. What happens to Richard Nixon, who was something of more of like a national conservative or whatever? Richard Nixon came along, right? One big, very popular president, and it was only through Watergate that they successfully discredited Nixonism, and the Republican Party became the party of Goldwater. And when Reagan ran in 1980, he ran a much more Barry Goldwater influenced kind of platform, and Reaganism kind of was an extended version of Goldwaterism, right? And that set the tone for the Republican Party. That set the tone for the controlled opposition conservatism of the GOP that you obviously see happening today, and still plagues our movement today. And so that's all to say, if Richard Nixon just could have finished out his term like he was supposed to, imagine where we would be. I'm sure we'd be in a much better place, because Ronald Reagan, who was very charismatic, is a very charismatic guy. He was a Chad, you could say, in some ways, right? Ronald Reagan in 1976 or 1980, whenever he chooses to run. He might even have ran in 1976, right? When Ronald Reagan inevitably runs and becomes president, Ronald Reagan would have been running on way more of a Nixonite kind of brand and platform than a Goldwater platform. And that would have set the tone going forward for basically the entire Republican Party, the entire conservative movement. And imagine where we would be. And so that's all to say. That's all to say that the sabotage of Watergate is probably one of the worst things to happen to authentic conservatives like us in American history, because that is really, in many ways, look at the domino effects of that. That is what set us off to this point, right? The Goldwater heads were basically all, as we know, the Reaganites, etc., sat by idly and allowed the communist infiltration of all the institutions and etc. to go on and happen. And they're so obsessed with this free market nonsense that they allowed America to basically be sold away or whatever. Nixonism, I should say, was more so the opposite of that. And then, what do we see, right? What do we? I mean, you look at what Nixon stood for ideologically. There's some things we don't really like. In many ways, he was much more similar to us, our modern kind of political faction than Reagan was, right? But we know what happened there. It is very sad. And so this is all to say, it is very symbolic that Gerald Ford was born on 7/14. Because what was 7/14 to Vince Dow? We obviously know what it was to Richard Nixon. Again, a guy who was trying to he was just trying to stop the world from killing itself. He really was taken down, replaced by a guy who was born on 7/14. What happened on 7/14? Lies happen. Lies happen to me. I was unfairly accused of doing a live stream with no audio, and we know that's not the case. And it is so true. It is so true. So it's very symbolic. I literally am Richard Nixon. I am Richard Nixon. Comment in chat right now. Vince Dow is Richard Nixon. It is so true. Like I am Nixon. I am Nixon in so many ways. And that's why I have Nixon as the end credits of my stream, because I am Nixon. We are all Richard Nixon, my brothers. It is so true. It is so true. Yes, and that's true too. We know what happened in the 1960 election. We know what happened. I'm sorry. We know what happened in the 1960 election. Okay, which is why it's so funny for people to kind of brand Kennedy as like this Fox populist. You have all these like PragerU videos about how Kennedy would have been a Republican conservative today. And it's like, dude, why do you guys keep trying to run with the idea that Kennedy was base? If Kennedy was base, then why did the system, let's just say, fortify things a little bit in his favor in 1960? Like, no, like just ridiculous. Like, what do you think happened? But he must have been. He was on our side, bro. Even though LBJ did everything he wanted to do, JFK was on our side, bro. It's ridiculous. Should have saw. Yeah, exactly. But this is the thing. Everything LBJ did that we talk about, Kennedy supported every single one of those things. All of those things were Kennedy's legacy. And really he wasn't really that popular either. He was kind of he became a martyr, which is why everyone decides they want to like him. But it's still. McGovern was super far left. That's why Nixon won in a landslide. This part is true, but Nixon would have won anyway. That's also true. So make a Nixon McCarthy video of their anti-communist movement. I think we're doing that on APU soon. I think one of our boys wrote a script on that. So it's true. It's true. No, Vince Dow is just Vince Dow, not Richard Nixon. No, I am Richard Nixon. Stop this. We are all Richard Nixon. All right, we are all Richard Nixon. It is so true. It is so true. Nixon. It is true. It is true. Richard Dixon. So true. So true. I am Richard Dixon. I am. LMAO people actually said JFK. Yes. I remember too. It was like, it's a big. I know PragerU has a bunch of videos on it. I've seen that said a lot. I don't think it's just Prager that's like gone out there and said that, but it's just so not like it's just so not true, But of course, I guess you could say in many ways, like that's what the modern conservative movement is. It is JFK, Like we are the movement of JFK and John Locke and just a bunch of liberals. But we're the conservative. You wonder why we lose. It's horrendous. It's actually horrendous. So President Kennedy is a full Democrat. Yes, he is. And he'd be a Democrat today. And, you could say he moderated himself for the times back then or whatever, but he absolutely was, I just want a ton of Nixon McCarthy content from you and APU. Well, I'd have to research this a little more, but I think. I think we are trying to do a McCarthy video soon, so that'll be good. That'll be good. John Locke is super cringe, so true. So anyways, let's see here. Kennedy was a horrible president. He almost got us into nuclear war. It is so true. It is so true. He wasn't a good president. You know, it was literally just that, like, he was young and he became a martyr, that people kind of like have this obsession with him. Like, it's just not true. It's just not true. Okay. So Kennedy wrote A Nation of Immigrants. So true. He did do that. You know, so Carter Shaw says, Vince, I have a bunch of scripts and you're ready. I should hit you up over that. Yes, you should. Okay. Anyways, before we wrap up the non-member part of the stream or whatever, one last thing I wanted to do, or should we do it? I don't know. We could do something else. I didn't, because we did not watch our stream last night. I kind of want to see MTG's response to the State of the Union, because I know that we watched Kim Reynolds one, the GOP one, and it was horrendous. Obviously, to my understanding, Marjorie Taylor Greene actually did the America First version of the response, and I kind of want to watch that because I haven't actually seen that. So why don't we watch that? I guess it is kind of relevant to what we talked about tonight, anyway. So let's react to that on stream, and then we will go to Q&A officially. So let's see, MTG State of the Union. Let's see here. Is it even available? Why is it not here? I think Right Side showed it, didn't they? Does it just not exist? It's just gone. Did she not do one? Okay, Right Side. Look at the YouTube algorithms. You wonder why we're not able to grow our channels. Look at the way this is like done. Like, this is all just CNN. It's like, okay. I'm putting in Right Side Broadcasting Network, dude. All right, this is fun. This is very fun. Does it just not exist? I literally thought she did that. Does it just not exist? All right, I guess it just doesn't exist then. I can only find it on Rumble. Well, if you can only find it on Rumble, that must mean things about the election or whatever were said, which means we probably can't even listen to it on stream, which sucks. Literally sucks. Screw this. All right, whatever. We'll just go to Q&A unless, I don't know. I'm not trying to get yoided by YouTube. I already did that once for this stuff. MTG had a fantastic response. All right. Let me see. But we have to, let me see. We literally are not even able to like broadcast that type of stuff on YouTube. So let's see. All right. Let's take a look. Is there? I want to see if there's a way to go through the transcript so we can, like, avoid getting you know what I'm talking about, guys. I'm sure you do. What is going on here? It's very, I know they are gonna throw us in jail. That's why I'm like not sure if of whether or not we should do this. We could also read my response to the State of the Union. You guys want to read? We can do that. Because I didn't publish it yet. We didn't publish it. I was gonna publish it on the APU website, but why does it keep doing that? Hold on. You guys want mine? You guys want to read my, yeah, because that's what you came here. You came here for my response to the State of the Union. I know you literally did. It's like factually true that you did. Okay. We're just gonna do this. Why not? Why don't we do this? It'll be fun. It'll be fun. We're gonna have fun. Okay? We are like unironically gonna have fun. All right. So I didn't publish this yet, but this is pretty cool. What neither Biden nor the Republican. Wait, did I might wait. Did I may have said non-YouTube friendly things in this too. Wait, I'm not sure if I did. No, I don't think I don't think I did. I don't think I did. Oh gosh, guys, we might have been on YouTube jail anyway. Oh no. Oh no. No, I think we're good. I think we're good. All right, no, I think we're good. All right, we can do this. We can do this. All right. All right, you guys ready? You guys ready? All right. To briefly summarize the state of our union, Joe Biden's presidency has been a disaster for ordinary Americans. So true. So true. I mean, I know I wrote it, but it's actually so true. Inflation is making it impossible for working people to fill up at the pump and put food on the table. School children are being muzzled and taught the evil doctrines of LGBT, quote unquote, and anti white racism. An invasion at the southern border threatens the sovereignty of the American people and their homeland. Last night's Republican response hit on some of these kitchen table issues, yet there were many more angles that were ignored. We felt that it was our duty to point out the dark realities of Biden's America that remain untold. Further, we felt the duty to note the ways in which the conservative establishment is complicit in many of Biden's failures. And that's so true. Is that not so? I know I wrote that last night, but is that not so true? It is so true. All right. It is the case. Take the issue of political persecution against Trump supporters. As we speak, right-wing dissidents are being hunted by the Biden administration. We know the names of notable victims like Owen Schroyer, Nick Fuentes, Tim Giannette, and Steve Bannon, and many more, obviously. But over 725 people have been arrested over the events of January 6th, 71 of whom have received criminal sentences, with many more awaiting theirs. Reports of human rights abuses against January 6 political prisoners run rampant. Far more conservatives have faced the reality of targeted harassment by the regime, that being door knocks, subpoenas, asset seizures, no-fly lists, coordinated deplatforming, and the like. Certainly, the persecution of conservatives is an undeniable consequence of Joe Biden's administration. But the Republican Party refuses to talk about the issue, and in doing so, they are complicit in its existence. This is a common theme of not just Biden's administration, but of the political system over recent decades. The GOP is consistently too inept to stop the works of the liberal political class. Political persecution of conservatives is immoral, but the GOP refuses to speak up against it. Medical mandates are draconian, but Republican governors seldom took action to ban them statewide. The border crisis is existentially threatening, but as noted by Tucker Carlson and Don Huffines, Republican states refuse to take matters into their own hands. Where Republican office holders actually have the power to stand up against the Biden administration, they don't. And so, as former Wyoming Republican Senator Alan Simpson fittingly used to remark, we have two political parties in this country, the stupid party and the evil party. I belong to the stupid party. You guys have probably heard that before. It's a very famous quote. But perhaps this slogan needs to be updated. So true. Being complicit in evil is evil. And the GOP, more often than not, is aware of the evil that they abet. In Washington, there exists not evil and stupid parties. Rather, there exists a uniparty and its semblance of controlled opposition. The political divide in America exists not between Republicans and Democrats, but between the political class and American patriots. And in this divide, the Republican establishment is just as part of the problem as Joe Biden. For evidence, we need not look further than the obvious lack of national loyalty displayed by both parties at the State of the Union, where the neoliberal class weaponized their platform to push its cause in Ukraine. So true. America's Congress was not littered with red, white, and blue, but with the blue and yellow colors of the Ukrainian flag. Amidst numerous, and we talked about this on stream tonight, but amidst numerous domestic crises, including an invasion at our own border, countless Democrats chose to mock Americans by donning that foreign flag on their outfits. Joe Biden followed suit, dedicating the entire opening segment of his address to the Ukrainian conflict. And so the loyalties of our political class could not be made clearer, okay? And, well, Ukraine's State of the Union speech was informative. When's ours? Wittingly noted Trump advisor Steve Cortez in response to last night. But it was not just Democrats who wore a foreign flag into America's capital. The sight was likewise seen amongst Republicans, with House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy hanging a Ukrainian flag, and we talked about that tonight, from his suit pocket. Other House Republicans, like Representative Victoria Spartz, copied the gesture, and Iowa Governor Kim Reynolds even flaunted a Ukrainian flag pin in the official Republican response to the State of the Union. The obvious question arises, while this is expected of Democrats, how is this behavior acceptable for the party that is vocally America first, patriotic, and pro-America? And so the problem is not just that Democrats have no loyalty to America and that Republicans are just well-intended but too stupid to stop them. The problem is that neither party has loyalty to America, and it shows when the leadership of both parties wears foreign flags into our State of the Union. The problem is that our political class, represented in both the DNC and the GOP, has equally sold out the American people for decades. Joe Biden's presidency is an unmitigated disaster, but in many ways, its consequences are merely the product of the bipartisan generation of elites from which he came. And so our poor State of the Union is not merely an indictment of Biden, but of the establishment in both parties, our agencies, and our institutions. In order to fix the consequences of Biden's presidency, we must be willing to eradicate the entire political establishment that manufactured his presidency in the first place. On our side, we will get out of this mess by not by electing more neoliberal Republicans, but by putting authentic conservatives into power. That will mean taking many current Republicans out of power, by the way, and it will mean rejecting the conservative institutions that prop up the current GOP. It will take a full-scale, populist, America First revolution within the Republican Party. And only by a total transformation of the GOP into a conservative party will we ever hope to see the transformation of America into a conservative country again. And it is only in a conservative country that we may ever truly rebuke the failures of neoliberalism highlighted by Biden's presidency. This, then, is the truly conservative response to the State of the Union, and we look forward to the days when an American political party accurately represents us. It's so true. It's so true. So there you go. There you go. David Carlson. He needs to publish this. I sent it to him. I was like, put this on the website. I don't think he did it yet, but this is going to go on the APU website. You've seen it firsthand. It's so true. This response is based. I know it is. On God, this is the most base piece. Hey. You know, I have to say, I'm not to like toot my own horn. I'm a decent writer, which is ironic because I barely write anything ever. I don't really write that much. But you know, I'm a decent writer. I have to say, I don't write or read that much, if I'm being completely honest. But you know, few take into account the vincedao writing abilities because they never see them actually happen. They never actually see them happen. It was not a speech. It's not meant to be read as a speech. It's meant to be like it's a piece. Like if I probably would have written a little differently if it was a speech. No, this is like a piece meant to be read. But it's very true. It's very true. Many people are saying they really like the piece. It was very cool. Make it dank, Vince. Make it dank. It's true. It's true. George Floyd. We got George Floyd conservative in chat. Let's freaking go. Alan Simpson did not come up with the evil and stupid party remark. I don't know if he came up with it, but he was famous for touting it. And I was not shilling for Alan Simpson. I was just using the analogy because people know the analogy. But it's true. It's true. We're not necessarily Alan Simpson fans. I'm just saying. I use the analogy because it was something people like know of, you know. And I actually kind of rebuked the analogy too in many ways. Because what did I say? I said being complicit in evil is evil, and that's so true. Vince's book coming soon. No, I will write a book. It's coming. Dao's red book. Yes, it will be Dao's red book. It's coming. We're unironically gonna write that. Where can we read this document? I'm trying to. All right, tell David to publish. I'll tell him, but it's gonna be on the populistunion.com website. Hopefully sometime this week. Hopefully we can like get that out. All right. But yeah. This response was from my boy David. No, it's from your boy Vince. Untrue. All right, guys. So we're gonna go to Q&A now. So if you're watching on the replay, be sure to become a member. We're gonna put this on the members tab. But if not, thank you very much for watching. You guys want to do a prayer before we leave? Let me see. Let me get out the journal. Daylight saving time is a liberal psyop. I don't know. I guess it is. Is it really? I'm not sure. All right, I got the prayer journal. All right, here's one. This is from Psalm chapter 4. And the prayer of the title prayer is peaceful rest. So here we go. Answer me when I call, O God of my righteousness. You have given me relief when I was in distress. Be gracious to me and hear my prayer. Know that the Lord has set apart the godly for himself. The Lord hears when I call to him. You have put more joy in my heart than they have when their grain and wine abound. And that's so true. That's so true. In peace I will both lie down and sleep, for you alone, O Lord, make me dwell in safety. So true. So true. That's from Psalm chapter 4, if anyone wants that. So true. All right. All right. Vince, I pray to very, very, very funny. All right. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, have a very good night. We're going to end the stream here. God bless. You guys have done a lot of trolling against me tonight, but I love you. It's so true. I do. But yeah, have a very good night, folks. Alpha moves only. God bless and peace.
In leaving it, I do so with this prayer. May God's grace be with you in all the days ahead.
He is a globalist, and we are nationalists. He believes in some Pax Universalis. We believe in the old republic. He would put America's wealth and power at the service of some vague new world order. We will put America first. So today we call for a new patriotism, where Americans begin to put the needs of Americans first. For a new nationalism, where in every negotiation, be it arms control or trade, the American side seeks advantage and victory for the United States. And the people of this country need to recapture our capital city of Washington from lobbyists and registered agents of foreign powers who are hired to look out for everybody and everything except the national interest of the United States. And our Western heritage is going to be handed down to future generations and not dumped onto some landfill called multiculturalism.